Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live broadcast. Today is Wednesday, February the 20th, 2019. Welcome in, grab a seat. We're going to be here for a little while. As you can see, I still have the judge's computer up on the table because made some interesting observations last night during testing and with the great help and patience of our good friend, my good friend and yours, Catherine Anna Hauserman, who was up to the wee hours of the morning making suggestions and helping me make sense of these tests. She opened up a window I hadn't seen before, and I'm going to share that with you because I think you're going to find it very interesting as well. Today we're very much more prepared. I have police outside my door waiting to write reports for every fraudulent call that happens to be made to any delivery service, cab or tow truck or whatever. I asked them not to, but they insisted. They're filing reports on all of it. They've also will be monitoring the phone activity as well. So people who don't like the issue with the video that they don't like, I'm going to keep it up even longer. As long as the harassment continues, I'm not taking the video down. So if they want that video to come down, the harassment needs to stop. And is it worth going to jail for? Well, that's up to you to decide, but I'm not here to talk about that. We'll make another video to address the small percentage of trolls who, for whatever reason, want to put their freedom on the line for Linus. I'm sure Linus is not happy about your behavior. That being said, I got an email response today from one of my YouTube fans. I like to call her Mama Gina. Gina is an 83-year-old Italian grandmother, still cooking with simple, she cooks with, it's simple and honest. It's very genuine and authentic. And if you guys have not seen her videos and you like food, who doesn't like food? It looks amazing. The recipes look very easy to follow, although you better be prepared to make a lot. But I've got to tell you, she is just the best. She highlights what YouTube is all about. And I had sent them a letter and I had offered them my old wireless lapel microphone because, you know, you guys with your generosity, you've made it possible for me to get a better microphone. I think this one sounds better. And then what do I do with the old one, right? So I want to pay it forward, and I've offered it to them if they want it. And her son-in-law responded to me, and he, I guess, is the one doing all the video editing and filming. And he's like, yeah, we'll take it. So I'm going to send it to him because I think that's it would just help if they had a little cleaner audio, and it's really neat when you hear from, you know, somebody you spend some time with online, like you feel like you know them, but they don't know you at all. So I just reached out to them, and, you know, I wasn't really sure I was going to get a reply, but I just let them know that I appreciate their content. I hope she continues showing off her recipes. And there's a link to her channel, Bon Appetiti, that is down in the video notes. Also in the video notes, it just so happens that SATA to USB adapter that you see me use on some videos in the past, that's on sale today at Amazon for just $4.95. And if you have Amazon Prime or you order over $25, the shipping is free. You have to use a coupon code, and I believe it's just for today only, although it goes on sale all the time. It's usually $9. Today, $4.95 over at Amazon. So the link for that is in the video notes as well. Before we get started, let's see who's in the chat. Let's say hello, right? It's kind of rude to not acknowledge the people in the room, don't you think? Philip Drake, hello. John Bannum, Paul Newman, Chris Williams, Alan Neal, John Craig, Torgo Zero, Old Sparky, IZ, Dave Murray, Jens Carlson, Robert Roth, Mahai, Alej Tebej, Maruf. Hi, Maruf. You know what, Maruf? I'm going to make you a moderator today, if you'd like. J-Toy, David Martinez. Oh, thank you for your kind words, David. I'm not amazing. You're amazing. Snowman says hello. Rich Robbins. Strandberg Tomas has contributed 20 Swedish krona. Thank you so much. Rich Robbins said, so the cops are watching? Yes, yes, they are. Very much so. More than that. GL Thunder says hello, Carrie. Let's see. Niels Van de Sand says, you rock. No, you rock. Paul Newman says, good to see you. Good to see you too, Paul. Orly Doss, Paul Howell, Roger Hall, Photon Elementary Particles says hello. Darren Gilholm, Dusan Packler. William Hall says hello. I'm from the Minnesota tundra. Yeah, well, you know, I'm from Michigan, so I know a little about it, but that's the one thing we always said in Michigan was it was so cold. We said, well, at least we're not in Minnesota. Because it's cold in Minnesota. And let's see, Paul from Mars, welcome in. Jared Blackmore, Michael Shaw, Paul Newman, David McGee, Martin Firth, Michael Mancini, Thomas Carter, Quintessa, Pedro Contreras, Stephen Spencer, Ben Laird says hello from Scotland. I see L in the chat. Bob Wilson says hello. And Vern Mahoney. Tony Wallow, of course, says the computer that he got is working fantastic. Hello to William Dawson and Ken Jung. Richard Bogan. Mokum Vapes says he's in Amsterdam. There's a little joke in there. Amsterdam and vaping. I wonder what they're vaping. Just teasing. Terry Scoble joins us from Australia. Oh, Australia. You wouldn't believe what I got the other day. You recall I built and shipped a computer to Australia, those of you who've been watching the channel. And the gentleman received the computer and sent me, hold on, I have to find it. He sent me this. That's not the whole thing. It's not, hold on, transform that and fit the screen. There it is. So there he is in Australia. He got his computer. That is a happy man and a man with the patience of a saint. So hopefully he's going to have a chance here very soon to get back to me on a review, see what he thinks of it, and I'll follow up. Whatever he says, word for word, I will share with you guys. I don't know him. I've never met him before. He reached out to me. He asked me if I would ship a computer to Australia. I said I didn't, and he asked why, and I told him why, and he said, well, what if I accept all liability, and I'll make whatever payments are necessary? And I said, are you sure you want to do that? He said, yep. And it did arrive in perfect shape. Although I did pull the video card out of it, and I made him a private video to explain to him how to, you know, it's just a private video for me to him saying, all right, here's your computer, this is your video card, here's how you plug it in. I didn't want to, you know, ship it with it in there. And then go ahead and turn it on, but make sure you look for anything that might have fallen off or gotten loose in shipping before you do. It's a pretty short video, and it's something I do for customers where there may be special instructions needed like this. And that's just a service I offer to my customers. Anyway, such a weight off my shoulders to know that that arrived safely. Now, why are we here today? We are here to talk about benchmarking software and whether or not you should trust the results. And I'm going to explain why. I want to show you why exactly. I want to, let's see, Gainsy95, Peter Brooks. I was still saying hello to everybody. Lotto Win, Mark's Brother 715, Sergei Cochette. Colin Hilton joins us. I know Colin has not been feeling well lately. So Colin, Godspeed and recovery. It's wonderful to see you here, Colin. I see your face, I see your name, and I smile. So thank you. You're a wonderful friend. I'm honored to have all of you as my friends. John Rice and David McGee, Bob Godfrey says hello from Georgia. Moruko Sakamoto. Just is fun to say. I'm not making fun of it. It's just fun to say. Eddie Milne and Michael M. Patrick Russo, Ralph Weishar, Jan Goodings contributed £1.99. Love your videos, Carey. I've learned so much. Well, wait till you see what you're going to learn today. Ramsey Piazza's contributed $5. Appearance fee for random talk running through the screen. Oh, don't worry. They're paid very well in cookies. Francois Guibal, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Hello to you, my friend, Vern Mahoney. Reloaded 714. Bob Wilson. Dave Stetzel, Pete Unwin, Soren Rasmussen, Corey Wilkerson, Rare Apple 3, Stephen Boker, Christoph Esch, John Peck, John Sautier, I think, PM Crisp. All right, guys. Sean Baxter, John Banham. I think I got everybody in blue, all my friends in blue. Man, appreciate you guys more now than I ever have. Like, if I didn't appreciate you enough before, it's like 3 times what it once was. That's how amazing you are, and you should know that. Let's talk about benchmarks. I've always said you should not let a piece of software dictate your happiness, in the sense that if you build a machine and that machine performs well for you, you should be happy. But if you have to run software to measure your temps, and you have to run software to measure your frequency, and you have to run software to measure your performance, and you're comparing it with numbers you're seeing online from strangers you don't know, with other potential tweaks and modifications that they're not being forthcoming on because maybe they don't know better, you might have unrealistic expectations, and then you're going to be unhappy. For example, turning the XMP memory profile on has never made a noticeable difference to any end user. If I enable it or I disable it, everything runs exactly the same except in benchmarking results. Decide for yourself. Now, if you got it, use it. Certainly no harm in having it. Although sometimes there is. Sometimes when you enable XMP, if there's some incompatibility, then your system can start crashing. So it may not be worth the risk. But if it runs solid and stable, rock on. Nobody's ever called me and said, my computer runs too fast, can you slow it down for me? It's just, I've never gotten that call. So what I want to do now is I want to fire up this bad boy. All right, so we still have the Dark Rock 4 in here from Be Quiet. And let's power this bad boy on, and let's switch over to the video input of that screen, and it will stick me up in the corner. And I guess I'm going to need to get a timer. I need some kind of way of timing this. All right. There's your boot time. Stuart Gregg has contributed £2. He says, have a Coke on the Scots. Well, thank you very much. I was really trying to think of something clever and Scottish to say, but nothing happened. So all you got was a thank you very much. Nikolai Lokanov says, hello from Mexico. Welcome in, Nikolai. Okay. I know you can't. You're never going to believe this. You are not going to believe this. On the desktop, hold on, I got to make this bigger, guys. On the desktop, you'll see I got a couple of different Prime 95s here. This is Prime 95 26.6. This is 29.4 build 8. So in all of my testing, I always use Prime 95, always the latest version. 29.4 build 7 I'd been using because I didn't know build 8 came out, but so now I'm going to start using build 8. So we're going to start using build 8 today. We're going to run also the hardware HW monitor software. Went from version 1.38 to 1.39. That's updated as well. One of the fun things about buying a new chip, in this case we've got a Core i7 9700K. One of the joys of being one of the first people that have the latest and greatest technology is not only do you have the honor of paying top dollar for it, but you get to be a guinea pig for everybody else dealing with whatever problems that new technology introduces, which in this case appears to be excessive heat. Let me demonstrate. We're going to bring up hardware monitor, and we're going to watch. Let's close that. We're going to watch these values of the temperatures. And you'll see down here, you'll see that the CPU will crank up automatically as needed. What we're really interested in is this max temperature. As a system builder, I like to make sure that I run the Prime 95 benchmark for 15 minutes, full bore, 100% workload, to test the machine's ability to handle the worst possible and unrealistic workload a customer would ever throw at it for that length of time. It's a very unrealistic test. It's like, as somebody said online, it's like driving on an incline, on an upward incline in your car with your foot to the floor for 15 minutes without letting up. It's never going to happen, right? There's no scenario where you're ever going to do that. But if your car does that without overheating, it should be good to do whatever you need it to do. And so that's the logic. Now this CPU, it thermal throttles at 100 degrees centigrade. So I want to see a temp that does not exceed 85 degrees centigrade during the 15-minute test. So let's do that now. I'm going to go ahead and start Prime 95. Right, we're just going to stick with defaults. Click OK. This is what I always do. And we're going to watch these temps, and I'm going to starting the timer. Which you probably can't see in that little window. Keep an eye on this row right here. And as I talk, if I get distracted, you let me know if we exceed 85 degrees centigrade. Now, we aren't going to cause any harm to the CPU at all. The CPU will throttle down and it will protect itself from overheating, and the whole system kind of slows down. But you would never know that as an end user, unless you're in the middle of a game and it severely impacts your frames per second. Users that are in Word or Excel or have browser windows open, they're simply not going to know when their CPU throttles. It's just seems like something took a little longer than it should, and usually it's milliseconds, and human beings don't notice that, but it depends on the workload, right? If you're watching a video, let's say maybe the video starts stuttering or staggering, and that would be really annoying, right? So it's unlikely your CPU would overheat playing a video, but let's say you were doing some cryptocurrency mining and you were doing, I don't know, something else, and you were trying to watch a video. And then maybe you were running Prime 95 on it just because you enjoy torturing computers. I don't know. We want to keep an eye on these temps. We're already, maximum we're hitting is since 60 centigrade after just 90 seconds. I want you to remember that. 60 centigrade, 90 seconds. And just to verify, I want to show you what version of Prime 95 we are running. Just to be clear, we are running Prime 95 version 29.4, build 8. We're running all the CPU cores at 100%, which is displayed here, 100% core on all the cores. You'll see our current frequency, our maximum frequency, right? It's a fast chip, and it does get hot. All right, this is where things start to get interesting. We're already at 62 degrees centigrade and just 2 minutes in. Does anybody know what I'm going to do in this test? Does anybody have any idea what I'm about to show you? And please remember, there is about a 90-second delay between when I talk and when you hear me. So if you see long pauses where I'm waiting for responses, then I'll usually say exactly what I'm saying right now to stall for time. Wayne mentions AVX instructions. That is a very common concern, which is not the case here. or at least isn't the, well, you'll see. You'll see. We'll talk about that in a minute, but you're on the right track. You're on the right track, because that's what I thought too. In fact, Edward mentions, let's see, 26.6 version of Prime 95 uses non-AVX version temps. Now, whether or not I turn AVX on or off in Prime 95 actually doesn't make much difference. It doesn't, you'll see, you'll see. It does make a difference, don't get me wrong. It makes a slight temperature difference, but not like what you're about to witness live here on YouTube right now. So, you know, here I am, I'm building a computer for a client, and before I continue with my build, I get the motherboard installed, I get all the basic things installed, and then I want to test fire it, make sure everything works before I continue on with the build or do any cable management or even activate Windows for that matter. So I run this test both on Franklin's computer, which has a similar configuration, and now on the judge's computer, and they are failing with every cooler I put on them. They will not pass this requirement that I have that they run full bore, Prime 95, 15 minutes, default settings. So we're at 79 degrees centigrade right now, 4 minutes and 34 seconds into the test, and we're going to allow this to continue until I will probably have to stop it before 15 minutes. It will probably exceed 85 degrees here very, very quickly. I'd say within the next 2.5 minutes, we should see it exceed the maximum temp that I want to permit. Running the CPU at 85 degrees centigrade still gives you 15 degrees Celsius of headroom, and that's your safety zone. So you don't hit you don't get anywhere near your T-junction, your throttle. So, I want to resolve that. But the problem we run into resolving it is the judge is absolutely opposed to a liquid cooler. Does not, foot down, not having it. So no liquid cooler. So if we're not going with a liquid cooler, if that's off the table, there's no sense that we have to change the case. The only reason we would need to change the case would be to accommodate a big enough cooler that could handle this. Holy smokes, we're at 94 degrees centigrade. Woo! 94. All right, so I'm going to stop the test. Stop. And then you're going to watch these temps. They're going to drop real quick. Watch right here on the left. These are our current temps. Now, Prime 95 doesn't really shut down if you just hit the X. You have to go to test, and then you have to go to exit. All right. And then let's close this. So it was just under 6 minutes, and we were into the 90 degrees centigrade, real near that throttle point. Now, are you paying attention? Because I want you to pay really close attention to this. Here you are, or here I am in my case, going, what is wrong? How come none of these coolers are doing their job properly? Now, as you can see, I had no complaints with the computer until I ran that test. I was happy with this until I ran that benchmark. My happiness went away when I saw the results of the benchmark. The software's results affected me, how can I explain it? It affected my impression of the reality, right? Because the reality was I was very happy with it. Now I'm going and looking for problems. There was no obvious problem. I'm looking for them now. And the reason I'm looking for them now is to stamp them out so that they don't become a problem. I'm going to try and be very proactive rather than reactive. But the downside of that is when there isn't really a problem at all and you just created one. Let me explain. Rather, let me demonstrate. Let's clear these values out. Remember, we hit 94C just over 6 minutes. So let's go to View and let's clear that. Now, here's Prime 95 26.6. We're going to start that, default values, and we're going to let that run now. Let's clear the timer, and we're going to start the timer again. Boom. Just to verify, under Help, about Prime 95, 26.6 Build 3. The link for 26.6 Build 3 is in the video notes below the video. Let's keep an eye on the temps. And same benchmarking software, default values, same temperature monitoring software, haven't even rebooted the machine or anything. And I'm going to tell you, here's a spoiler alert, we're going to get to 15 minutes and we're not going to break 74 degrees centigrade. Well, it's the AVX. There's something called AVX, and it's an instruction set like SSE and SSE2, and you can certainly Google it to read more about it, but it's far too technical for the channel, the audience that I'm trying to encourage. I don't want to get that technical. And quite frankly, I don't know enough about it to be an expert. So I couldn't really answer it if I wanted to, and it's not really relevant. And I'm going to demonstrate to you why here in just a moment. So be patient with me. Be patient with me. Rich Robin wants to know, is this an older version of Prime 95? That is correct, Rich. It is. It is an older version. Not much older. And I want to reiterate, this has, well, you're going to watch. Well, AVX enabled or disabled does affect the heat, not to what you witnessed, not to that level, absolutely not. You can go in, and if you like, I'll demonstrate it, but you can edit a text file, local.txt in Prime 95. So if you download Prime 95, you won't have a local.txt file by default. As soon as you run Prime 95 and then close it, and you look in the Prime 95 program directory, you'll see it created a local.txt. You can edit that local.txt and put in CPU supports AVX equals 0, and then save that. And it does make a slight temperature difference that only affects versions of Prime 95 after 26.6, but it doesn't solve this problem. In other words, disabling AVX in the latest version of Prime 95 still results in an overheating situation long before the 15 minutes. You know, it might go an extra 30 seconds and then it hits it anyway. That's all the difference the AVX makes. So while everybody keeps talking about AVX, you're not wrong, but it's also not the solution. The computer still overheats with AVX set to 0, which would be off. And so you go, well, then what the heck, how does this make any sense? How can the same benchmarking software from the same company have two completely different results? And when you acknowledge the main difference after 26.6, any version of Prime 95 after that enables this AVX, and you go, well, that's why. That's why it runs a little hotter, but it's not why it runs this hot, or as hot as it ran before. Like right now, we just passed the 4-minute mark, and we're at a max temp of 66°C. Just remember that as we move forward. And I see Catherine Anna Hauserman's joined us, and Catherine was up with me till the wee hours of the night helping me through this. And when Catherine suggested trying a different version of Prime 95, I said, it doesn't make any sense, it's a waste of time. And she pointed me to a link on Tom's Hardware where they were talking about it. And I continued back and forth, and then I said, better take my own advice. You know, I said that to myself. What is it that I say? When you can't figure out a problem, you can't use your own logic to justify not doing a test because that test would be a waste of time. You don't know if that test is a waste of time until you run that test. So I thought, rather than bicker back and forth with Catherine, I'll just do it and show her. She was right. There is a difference, and you're witnessing it now. And my brain has a hard time wrapping itself around that because it defies all of my experience and knowledge of this piece of software in particular, the history that I have with it, and just the operation in general of the effect it's having on the CPU. So then I continued working on this with numerous different test results and numerous different Prime 95 versions because, you know me, I got to get to the bottom of what's going on. I got to figure this out. I have to understand it. It has to make sense. Robert wants to know if I'll anticipate much higher CPU temps when the graphics card is installed. No, because the graphics card's a blower style graphics card. It's going to suck air into the graphics card from underneath the CPU, and it's going to blow the air out the back of the graphics card. If you look on the back of your graphics card, you probably have these little vent holes. And if you put your hand over it while your system is on and the fans on the GPU are running, you'll feel the air coming out. So those fans, they suck air in to that enclosed area of your graphics card where the GeForce logo is, you know, that plastic, there's a word for it, and then it pushes that air across the card and out the back of your computer. So there is some ambient heat, both from the CPU and the graphics card, but really not enough that's gonna, or that shouldn't make a negligible difference overall in the performance of the computer or the heat. Lotto Win says, Tom's Hardware is an excellent and trustworthy resource. Well, you know, since we're waiting for the test to complete, I gotta tell you a story. I was at the DEF CON convention many years ago, and I was in the press room, and I met this guy who I am friends with to this day because I've never met a tech journalist with the kind of integrity this guy has. His name is George O. And George and I became fast friends because we're both interested in seeking the truth, even if that truth is not flattering, may not be the truth we want to see, but, you know, kind of a Mr. Spock situation where it's like, well, these are the facts, and that's, like it or lump it, that's what it is. And then we can dissect it and figure out why. And I very much appreciate that, George, because there's not enough people like that in journalism today, as far as I'm concerned. You know, that kind of integrity and due diligence that he does is, there's people out there, but they're hard to discern. So George is one of those guys. And George, at the time, I think he was working for Tom's Hardware. And I said, you know, George, I really, really respect Tom's Hardware. Like, of all the sites at that time, it's like 2006, of all the technical websites that are out in 2006, I think Tom's Hardware is the most respected, and it's my bucket list to write for them. Can I get the name of your editor-in-chief? And he said, yeah, it's David Strong. I go, Dave, I know David Strong. We wrote a book, I assisted in a book that he wrote called The Home Networking Survival Guide, which is still available on Amazon. And I contributed an appendix of troubleshooting steps. Well, I just didn't know. David has moved from job to job in numerous positions for numerous companies, typically as editor-in-chief. So at the time, he was editor-in-chief of Tom's Hardware. So after I got back from DEF CON, I sent an email out to David and said, hey man, it's been a long time, how you doing? I hear you're working for Tom's Hardware. I don't want to work for Tom's Hardware. I just want to write one article. I just want to say I've done it. And David said, yeah, what do you want to write? I said, really? I can write anything I want? He goes, yep, I know you. Whatever you write, we'll take it. Anything you want. Oh my God. So I ended up writing 2 articles for Tom's Hardware. They were translated in, I think, 17 different languages around the world. And one was about BIOS settings, and one was about using adware, which, I mean, who uses that anymore, right? So again, 2006. This is 13 years ago. And that, to me, this is how much I respect Tom's Hardware. I consider that one of my greatest achievements, one of my greatest accomplishments was being good enough to be published by Tom's Hardware. I'm very proud of it. It's not ego, I'm not boasting. I'm very proud of it. When you consider where I came from and what I've had to do to get to where I am today, there was some vindication, and it was an honor, and I never want to do it again. But what an amazing experience, and what a great friend. Sometimes, you know, when friends can help you in ways you may not realize. Being friendly to people often can come back, as karma often does, in ways you never even considered. And likewise, when you're the opposite, then the opposite is often true as well. Let's see where we're at now. We've been running the test for 11 minutes. 73, looks like 73 is our maximum temp that's been hit thus far. Okay, now, who would like to explain this? Who would like to explain this phenomenon? Did I write or co-write a book about networking? I did the appendix of the book. Here, you know what? I'll just grab it and show it to you. Very proud of it. Very, very proud of it. Where are we at? I'm going to get to the books here in just a moment because we're at 12 minutes and 33 seconds, and I want to be very precise with this. I want this to run for 15 minutes. The timer is at almost at 13 minutes. We're almost there. Our temps, 73 still is our maximum temp so far. CPU is drawing 148 watts, right? I'm sorry, the computer itself. Is that right? Am I on watts? Yeah. 147 watts are being pulled from the wall right now, and yesterday we saw this go as high as 280 using the other version of Prime 95. Where are we at? 13 minutes. Okay, so we got a minute and a half left. Minute and a half left. CPU is 100%. We're clocking out at 4600 megahertz right this moment on all the 8 cores. For those of you who like this kind of information, I will scroll up to show you I am not hiding anything from you with any intention. If you want to see the voltage cores, you want to see the voltages things are running at, it's all there for you. Still have a maximum of 73, just under 30, a little over 30 seconds left in the test. Twenty seconds. 15. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop the test. Let's take a look at our results this time. Maximum temp achieved, 73 degrees centigrade. Now, the ambient room temperature obviously has an effect on this test, and that's why benchmarks, especially when we talk about heat, they're very susceptible to different little settings and things, environment and things people don't consider when they're comparing their benchmarks to others, especially when we talk about, again, temperatures. Now, here's what I noticed. This is what I find to be most interesting. I'm gonna clear all these values. Do this again. Clear the minimum and maximum. And let's exit the Prime 95 test. Once again, closing the X still leaves Prime 95 open and minimizes it down into the system tray. So I want to actually shut it down. When I run Prime 95 version 26.6, which I just had running, I just hit OK with all these default values. But I want you to pay particular attention to this value and this value. So if I don't change anything but those two values, if I can come in here and change those two values, what would I change them to? Well, do they need to be changed? What would we change them to, and do they need to be changed? Are those values the same on Prime 95 29.4? They are not. Where this said 1600, this says 2000, and where this said 15, it now says 3. So let's change that to what the passing, the Prime 95 that works is setting this value to 1600. And this value to 15. Let's run the test. Start the timer. And let's watch these temps again. Great job from my mods. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate what you're doing there. Sorry you guys have to do that, but just consider it whack-a-troll. Make a game out of it. We'll see who gets the most points at the end of the show. Old guy wants to know, is an i7 9700K a big jump over the i5 9600K? Go to Google. Here's what you do. I'm going to give you the best hint to teach a man to fish. Type in 9700K space VS, which is short for versus, space 9600K, and hit enter. And the first link that shows up on Google is a website I've discussed. And it will compare any two products, GPUs, CPUs, against each other and give you all the details and specs you could possibly want. Whether or not something's better than something else really may not impact you depending on how you use the computer. So you have to decide for yourself if a station wagon is better than a sports car. Is a minivan better than a Tesla? It depends on what's right for you, what fits your needs, your budget, your expectations. So if I can teach you how to look at the information, then you can determine if that information applies to you. And then and only then can you make the judgment for yourself if that is better or worse. Does that make sense? Jordan says, my Windows 10 machine is crashing randomly. It sounds like you might have a bad stick of RAM. And perhaps we'll show you how you can test that here if you remind me, because I will probably forget. It's a really easy thing to test, and I'll show you how to do it. It's time consuming, but it's easy. All right, so far we're just 2 minutes into the test, and we are at a maximum 63 degrees centigrade. Now remember, we are running the latest version of Prime 95, 29.4 build 8. And all we did is change the default values to match the same values of the default test in 26.6. That's all I've done. Forget AVX. AVX is still on. AVX is not used in 26.6. AVX is used in 29.4. So AVX is still in use and will probably result in a slightly higher end result after 15 minutes. But are we going to get to 15 minutes? Will the same test that we just ran with this version of Prime 95 that couldn't even get through 6 minutes, will it go through all 15 minutes and still not exceed 85 degrees centigrade? We've hit 72 max at 3 minutes and 40 seconds. So we're already hitting higher temperatures quicker. But are they going to level off? Are we going to? How else can you tell? When you have two identical, one of the things, just to give you an idea of diagnostics, when a customer, let's say in an office, calls me and says my internet doesn't work, the first thing I ask is it just not working for you? Or is it not working for everybody in the office, right? Am I going to diagnose an individual machine, or am I diagnosing a networking issue with perhaps the router or switches or cable modem, or maybe the ISP is down? So when you have, in this case, Prime 95, two different versions, the software looks identical to the naked eye. If you don't pay attention to those details, you may not even be aware of what version you're running. And yet one version has completely different end results than the other when you're supposedly just running the same default test. That's when you go, something between these two things is different. What is it? And initially I went down that AVX road and I spent way too much time. I probably spent 2 hours experimenting. Remember, think of all the time and effort I am wasting over the results of a benchmark when I was very happy with the quietness of the machine and how well it was running. It's almost like a technical hypochondria, fixing a problem that isn't there. So this is how my brain works. I got two identical things, and yet I got two different results. So they're not as identical as they appear to be. So let's look a little closer at the details. So we used to have this thing called newspapers, for the young ones that are watching. Sarcasm. We still have newspapers, I know. Isn't that funny? I have to say that. There used to be, in the comics section, which was always, it's still to this day, the best part of the newspaper, in my opinion. They'll say, here's two pictures. There are 7 differences between these two pictures. Can you spot them? And it was usually just a hand drawing of maybe a guy sitting on a chair with a lamp and a cat at his feet holding a book. And you had to notice the little details, like his hair was different, or the position of the chair was different, or the lamp was on or off, or the cat's foot was different. And you had to really pay attention to the detail. And that's wonderful for somebody who wants to be a technician. If you have that kind of critical thinking and you're good at it. Like early on for me, I used to like word searches, where you get a box of a bunch of letters and you had to find the words that could be horizontal, diagonal, upside down. That kind of thinking is what led me to being a technician. That's sort of, you know it's in there. You have no doubt the word that they're telling you to find is in there, and it's your job to find it. And of course, we all want to do it quickly. So you have to, if you just look randomly around, you'll look forever. You have to come up with a system, whatever your system is, to identify very quickly where, certain letters are unusual. Oh, that's got an X in it, and X's aren't used that often. And, there's only a couple of X's. I'll just look for those X's, and that'll lead me to the word. It's that kind of critical thinking. And let's see, we've been running 7 minutes so far. We did not run 7 minutes before this, right? We never got this far. This is our highest temperature so far, 72 degrees centigrade. We're just shy of 8 seconds. I'm sorry, we're about 8 seconds away from 8 minutes. Boom, 8 minutes now. So we're more than 50% through this test. Still see a maximum 72 centigrade. We were in the 90s on the same version of the same software with different default settings. I want to keep reiterating that. So do I have a problem with cooling this computer? Yes or no? What do you think? Should I be concerned that this computer is going to overheat? William Dawson says, like I've said in other YouTube videos before this one, benchmarks can make you feel good or bad about your computer. And you shouldn't allow a benchmark to control how you feel. You shouldn't allow a piece of technology to control how you feel. You shouldn't let your phone distract you from driving. Nothing's that important. You're moving at multiple miles per hour in your car. And when you take here's the thing, driving is so simple. It's the easiest thing you could possibly do. It's boring. You hold the wheel and you pay attention. And it's so boring, people are like, what else can I do? I listen to the radio, you talk to somebody in the car, something to just, it's mundane. It can be on a flat, straight road, especially when you live in the Western United States. It's big open expanses of nothing. So your phone goes beep and you're like, oh, and you look and you don't even realize we've all done it. You've accidentally kind of steered the wheel a little bit and pew, sometimes you get lucky and sometimes you don't. And the text is probably something stupid. It's some friend of yours going, hey, what's up? And then your friend says, what do you mean he died? Yeah, he was looking at your text. It's not your fault, but your friend's gone. So I'm not saying you shouldn't text your friend. I'm saying what you already know. And that's why. So, I forgot where I was going with this. When you are happy with your computer's performance, don't let a benchmark, don't let a piece of technology distract you from what's really important. Don't let it distract you from reality. The reality is you're driving a car. That's real. The text, it can wait. It'll be there for you. It's not going anywhere. Likewise, if you never push your computer this hard, and nobody ever would, why in the world would you care how hot it gets? However, on the flip side of that, we don't have to go from one extreme to the other. We don't have to say, and everybody's looking for absolutes these days. And the world isn't so black and white. So I'm not saying you shouldn't run benchmarking software. I'm saying you shouldn't, because that would be too extreme, right? I'm never going to run benchmarking software, and I'm just going to remain ignorant bliss. That's fine if that's what you want to do. Then the other extreme is off what I see. I just see it, so to me it's more common in my world, where people are at the other extreme, where they're obsessed with it. And I'm suggesting, let's use it for what it's worth. And don't give it more credit than what it's worth. And don't obsess over results that you don't have any control over, or obsess about something that may not be, not only will it may not be accurate, right? Because different BIOSes and report the temperatures in different ways, but it's upsetting. It's causing you some distress and potentially harming your wallet as you pursue spending money to fix it with more expensive thermal compounds and taking the machine apart. And then you can actually damage your computer for real when there was nothing wrong with it. Okay. 12 minutes and 20 seconds, maximum temps still look like we're at 72 degrees centigrade. You absolutely do not have to be worried about your computer if you're running a modern computer overheating. It will not cause any damage to the machine whatsoever. I've got a video from, I think I did it 3 years ago, where I take the cooler off entirely and run Prime 95 with the cooler off for 15 minutes. The CPU hits 100 degrees centigrade. It hits its thermal junction and it starts to shut down cores. And you see the temps drop into the 90s and then it goes back up to 100. And it drops into the 90s and it goes back up to 100. It drops to the 90s and it's cooling off, it's heating up, it's cooling off, it's heating up. No damage occurs. Now, would damage occur if you left it like that over time? Yeah, maybe after like 6 or 7 or 8 years, but that thing would be obsolete by then anyway, right? I mean, technology moves so quickly. This technology, this system right here will still run 45, 50, 70, 80 years from now. It's all solid state electronics. There's no reason it won't power up. If somebody keeps it, puts it in an attic and forgets about it, and their grandchildren's grandchildren pull this out and we still have 120 volt power and they plug it in, it's gonna power up. I promise you, it's gonna power up. Will a fan spin? Maybe not, but it will power up. So the technology will far outlive its usefulness. At this point, that's where we're at with computers, just so you're aware. This overprotection, this sort of like the, you ever seen the parents or the pet owners that are overly protective of their children or their pets and they don't let them off the leash, if you will? It's okay to let it off the leash. It's gonna be okay. Now, if your computer's crashing on you or blue screening on you, you might just have a heat problem that needs to be addressed. Now you're actually fixing something in reality. And that's the difference. That's the difference right there. Richard Bogan has provided a link for HW Monitor. Let me remind you and recommend that you only use the portable version. Don't install the software. Just download the portable version and then run the executable file as you see me do here on the video. Repeat what I'm doing and you should get the same results. Okay, 10 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. Maximum temp, 72 degrees centigrade, and 15, done. Test, stop, okay. And then you'll see those temps are gonna fall real quickly, right back down in the 30s. That's how fast a CPU can cool down. Unless you got a liquid cooler on it, it's gonna take longer for your CPU to cool down because the liquid takes longer to cool down, right? You know, if you have a hot bowl of soup or a hot coffee, it doesn't cool down that quick. But if you walk into a refrigerator from a hot room, it's instantaneous. Well, that's pretty much the difference between an air cooler and a liquid cooler right there. Does it matter? I don't know. It matters to some people, but consider that. Now let me just leave everything as it is for right now and go back to the main camera here. Now, I want to address let's get back to the books. David Strom. Where is it? Right there. Home Networking Survival Guide. This is an old book. I'm not recommending you buy it because the information in here is old and obsolete. If you go through the book and you go to the first appendix in the back of the book, tips for fixing network problems by that guy. And what follows are numerous steps for fixing network problems. As a result of working with David Strom, with the publisher McGraw, this is Osborne, which is part of McGraw-Hill, a very well-respected educational publisher, I had the opportunity to write my own book. Once again, I don't recommend you buy this book. It is obsolete. But there you have lots of pictures and explanations in plain English for Windows 90, 98, Millennium, and XP. So if you're running Windows 98 or Millennium or XP, this book's for you. But what was interesting was seeing my book translated into Russian. And furthermore, translated into Arabic, where the book goes the other way. There you go. But they're all old. You don't want to buy those. A second edition of The Healthy PC was published by McGraw-Hill with a different author because, well, let's just say me and McGraw-Hill we got a difference of opinion of value. So our values do not align. And besides, I'd rather do this. I can publish today. I don't have to take 9 months to publish something that's obsolete in a few years. I can do this today and publish it today. It's more relevant than this will ever be or could have ever been. So if you ask me if I'm going to write another book, no, that's why. It's by the time you start writing it, it's fresh. By the time it gets edited, put on the shelves and people buy it, there's probably stuff that's already changed. Like if I show a website in this book, they probably changed the website, right? And if it's supposed to be step by step and follow along, people go, well, it doesn't match. What's on the book doesn't match what's on my screen. And that defeats the purpose of the book, at least the way I wrote it. Rare Apple III has provided a link to my video where I demonstrate running Prime 95 on a CPU with no cooler. Thank you, Rare Apple III. That is, in fact, the correct link. Okay, let's say we want to test our memory. Let's talk about that. This system has 32 gigs of memory. It's going to take a long time to test, but how do I know that that memory works? All right, I built a new computer. I plugged the RAM modules in, and the system boots and installs Windows 10. I don't need to test the memory, right? Well, that's up to you. Because I'm building and shipping this computer, I want to make sure that all of the memory works, not just the memory I'm using. So if the upper memory, if the memory in the higher regions, which I haven't used yet because I'm not pushing the system high enough, hard enough, with enough applications all pounding it, there may be corrupted or damaged memory chips that will only expose themselves when that area of memory is reached. I'm trying to find the right words for this. It's a little difficult to explain. In this case, we've got 32 gigs of RAM, and most users will never use more than 16 gigs of RAM. Unless you're a very demanding user, you're an enthusiast, or you're the kind of person that likes having 100 windows open at the same time, then and only then would you benefit from more RAM. So what happens with computer memory is very interesting. If you have too little, it'll drag. If you get up to about 8, you're sort of in the middle. If you go to 16, it's more than you need. When I speak for the majority of people, not specialists, not the extremists. If you're an extremist or you run an application that's extreme, then 32. And then very rarely do people have applications that exceed that. They do exist, but they're not very common. So what if you put 64 in? Well, you just wasted your money, because now, so you had this much memory and your performance was here. You put this much memory and your performance went here. You put this much memory and your performance goes here, and then you put this much memory and your performance doesn't move, and you put more memory and your performance doesn't move, and more memory and your performance still stays here. This is the most you're using. Bill Gates said the problem when you make a lot of money is the restaurants, once you make a certain amount of money, the restaurants don't get any better, right? So they asked him why, back in the day, they interviewed him and he was still flying coach on an airplane. And they said, why are you flying coach? You're making good money, why don't you fly first class? He's like, once you make a certain amount of money, it just doesn't, things don't get any better. Once you've reached that pinnacle, anything above that doesn't change. It's a very interesting perspective. He said, I'm not a particularly big guy, I don't need the wide seat. We're all gonna leave and arrive at the same time. So it's like I'm gonna get there any sooner. So why not just sit in coach? What's the benefit? I admire that attitude, I really do. And I think it's very interesting because I never considered that. You reach a point of diminishing returns, whether we're talking about computer memory or we're talking about, in this case, money. A fascinating concept. So it would be in my best interest to identify any RAM that's corrupt now before I ship it to the customer for a couple of reasons. One, customer's going to have statistically a much better experience. 2, I am less likely to get a phone call. And 3, with those 2 things, customer having a better experience and me not getting a phone call, the customer is likely to be very happy with their purchase and want to refer me or buy another machine from me in the future. So I'm trying to be proactive instead of reactive. There's a company called Fram, F-R-A-M, and they make oil filters for cars. And I think in the 90s they had advertising on TV talking about the importance of not only changing the oil filter on your car in a regular interval, but choosing a quality one. And realizing the quality one is a little more expensive than the generic brand. And their slogan was, pay a little now or pay a lot later. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to pay a little now with our time using a free utility called memtest86. You guys with me? How we doing in there? How we hanging out here in the chat? Let's take a look, see if I missed some contributions while I've been chatting with you. Oh, quite a few came in. Marx Brothers is 715 has contributed $9.99. He says, hi Carey, you are best. My mom is going through a heart valve replacement on Friday. Well, it's a very serious surgery, and but at the same time, people have these surgeries all the time, and our thoughts are with you, and hopefully she'll be back better and stronger than ever. John Craig has contributed £5. Are your friends still outside serving and protect? Well, I'd have to go outside and look, wouldn't I? They're supposed to be. Geo Johnson's contributed $5. Says, appreciate you so much, Carey. Thanks to Acronis, just purchased TrueImage using the generous discount offer. Sharon Idles contributed £1.50. Thank you to Sharon. Simon Zafara contributed £5. Says, thanks for the Acronis discount. Appreciated. Hey, you guys thank Acronis. Tweet at Acronis and let them know you appreciate the coupon code from Carey Holzman's videos. So that'll encourage them to do that more. Make them aware. I mean, they know when you use the discount code. Doesn't hurt to let them know that way too, if you want to. Don't tell me, tell them. Like I said, I don't make any money from it, but I'm glad you guys see a value in that and took advantage of that offer. Matt has contributed $4.99. Says, thank you for all that you do, Carey. Thank you, Matt. Nikolai Lukanov has contributed 50, is that pesos? No, 50, what is MX? I know it's Mexico. 50 MX, I've got to look this up. I've never seen that before. Yeah, it's Mexican pesos, $2.60 US. Hey, listen, every dollar adds up. So thank you for your contribution. I very much appreciate it. Stuart Gregg has contributed £2. Oh, that one I mentioned already. Said, have a Coke on the Scots. Then, of course, Jan Giddings, Ramsey Piazza, and Stradberg Tomas, who I've already mentioned. So you guys, you're amazing. Thank you for your generosity and your support. It means the world to me, and I don't just say that. I mean it. Okay, let's flip back over to this machine for a moment. And let's shut it, and let's shut this. Let's close that. All right, so back to the desktop. Everything's cool. And I need a flash drive. I need an empty flash drive I can use. Let me grab one. Give me just a moment. You don't need a big flash drive. 2 gig flash drive is fine, 4 gig, 8 gig, because we're not really even going to use that much of it. What do I have? What do I have? All that rattling you hear, those are all flash drives. I have a hoarding problem when it comes to flash drives. But admitting your problem is the first step. Let's see. Tell you what, let's use this one here from we'll use that one. You know what? Let's use this one. I haven't used this one in a long time. Back in the day when I used to show up to customers, you know, to do repairs, I used to have a box of floppy disks with utilities on it. And then that became a CD wallet with CDs of utilities on it. And then that became a flash drive that I used to keep on my keychain. This is from Lexar. Gosh, this was in my pocket every day for years. I remember I would go to a customer's location to diagnose, all my utilities were on here. Remember, people still had dial-up access and such back then, so I didn't want to wait forever to download a utility to run. And then these got replaced with bigger capacities as I needed more and more utilities. And now I don't even bring one with me at all. Everything's just available online. You don't need to hoard stuff. You don't need to keep your own library when the internet is your library and you can check things out at any time from anywhere for free. So, at least in the case of the software that I'm referring to. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug in this flash drive. Let's plug it in right back here. It's still like USB 2. Not that it matters, but just so you know. And here we go. It's a blank flash drive. We're going to open a browser. I don't care what browser you use, doesn't matter. And we want to go to memtest86. Now you can follow this. This is intended to be step by step. Right here it says download now. We're going to click that. Not sure why that didn't work. Let's try that one. So there's a Pro Edition, there's the free. We're going to do the free edition. Image for creating bootable USB drive on a Windows, Linux, or Mac system. Perfect, that's what I want. And let's save it. Just see how fast that is. It's small. Open it, extract it, extract all. Click extract all, and then the zip file, all the contents of it get extracted into a folder. So just to avoid any confusion, let's close everything we no longer need. Now you've got a README file. Who needs it? Let's just do, that's an image. I thought there was a batch file. We'll do image USB, double click it. Yes. Select the flash drive automatically. We want to use that Lexar Firefly. That's the flash drive. Write the image to the USB. Yes. Post image verification. You certainly can do that if you want to. This is the source file. So all I had to do is just check that box and click the right button. Now, it's going to completely erase your flash drive. So don't use a flash drive that has anything on it that you want to keep. Because as soon as, this is what this dialog is warning you about. You're going to wipe that flash drive entirely. That's what an image does. Yes, it is correct. They have my permission. Well, that's a 16 gig flash drive. All right, yes. Now, it's warning me again. Second warning. Continuing will cause destruction of any data that's on that flash drive. And it will be replaced with the image that you've just downloaded. Yes. This only takes a moment. So up here at the top, you'll see write in progress. And then here we've got a progress bar. And this is only going to take a moment. And while that does that, I think I need another one of these. It's really good English, Carrie. Well, that does that. Well, that does that. Interesting choice of words. Well, that does that. As opposed to saying, well, image USB writes the memtest86 image file to the flash drive. I will grab a Coke. Or, in other words, when that does that. I don't know why the English language is so hard for people to learn. It's simple. You want to see a funny video? If you haven't seen it, College Humor has a video called The Worst Wi-Fi Password Ever. It is the funniest video I have seen on YouTube. And it's old, like this is a few years old. But you know, these things, they get really popular and no one ever sees it again. So if you missed it when it was popular, make it a point to check that out. I'll have to remember to add a link, or if anybody in blue wants to post a link to the College Humor worst Wi-Fi password ever video. Even if you've seen it again and it's been a while, it's still funny after numerous viewings. It's hilarious. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Almost done. Image completed. I wonder if my image completed. Yeah, it did. We're gonna close that. We're gonna close that. We're gonna exit that. We're gonna close that. And that is that. I did that on purpose. Start, Control or Settings, Update and Security, Recovery, Advanced Startup, Restart Now. Use a device on reboot. Which device? Well, neither of those. That ain't right. Use a USB drive. Why is my USB drive? Oh, you know why my USB drive's not there? It has to be unplugged and plugged in again. That's why. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna unplug the USB drive, right? Because it was now that it's got an image on it, the system has to look at it again and re-recognize it. So let's plug it back in. Let's plug it back in. Use a device. Might have to go all the way out of this. Well. Just reboot it. And we'll hit F12 and try it that way. F12 should give us a boot menu. And then we can choose the Lexar UEFI right there. Now it's going to boot to Memtest 86, and you don't have to touch a thing. Here's my hands, nothing up my sleeve, right? Computer's just running. We're letting it run, no keyboard or mouse input from me at any point. You want to talk about hands-free. At the top of the screen it says the test will start in about 2 seconds. 1, 0. And it runs. It's off to the races and we're off and running. And you'll see the information provided here. Does my mouse work? Not apparently. So the information is the pass below. So I'm looking at the top right. The percentage of that specific test, the test address of the memory that it's using and the pattern that it's using. And then on the left side, you'll see our clock and temperature of the CPU, which contains the L1, L2, and L3 cache on the CPU. It recognizes the memory as 31.8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's running at PC4 25,600, DDR4, XMP 3200, but I do not have XMP enabled at this time. There are 13 individual tests. So again, if we look at the upper right corner, it says we are on test 4. There are 13 total tests, and some memory problems only occur when the memory gets hot. And so for that reason, it will repeat by default, by just leaving the settings alone, it will repeat this series of 13 tests 4 times. And if it passes all 13 tests, which on this machine could take an hour or more just to complete the first 13 tests, then it'll repeat that a second time, a third time, and a fourth time, and then it'll give you the results. But if at any point during any of these tests, the very instant it encounters an error, it will be displayed in the blank part where it says time and address mode, pass 1 of 4. Do you see the pass 1 of 4? And then errors 0. So right below that, typically in red or in a different color, it'll alert you to an error. Now, if you see an error, you can stop the test immediately. Then shut your computer off and unplug it from the wall, and give it a second to drain the power out of the capacitors, and remove a RAM module. If you've got 4 RAM modules, you can remove 2 of them. Then rerun the test again. If the error occurs again, remove the 2 that you left and put the 2 you took out. If the error doesn't occur, then you've narrowed it down to one of the units you've removed. That's a game of swap. It is simply the process of reasonable deduction. Sherlock Holmes would be proud of you. But it's incredibly simple. The tool is completely free and everybody can make it. So what are you waiting for? Does your RAM have any problems? And if you've never used that much of your RAM, are you living in ignorant bliss with a machine that's not working while you're so obsessed with your frames per second, you're so obsessed with your temps, and you're completely oblivious to the actual problem you have? Isn't that fascinating? I personally find that profoundly fascinating. So a link from MTest 86 will be in the video notes below the video, completely free. I recommend you use a flash drive that's small. I think you need just a few hundred gigs. Like I think a 256 meg flash drive will work, but I wouldn't waste a big flash drive on it. I mean, these days a 16 gig cheap flash drive is like $6. That's fine, it's fine. I wouldn't go much bigger than that. I wouldn't go above 16 gigs. So if you have a flash drive laying around 16 gigs or smaller, those are good utility flash drives to have tools like to put a BIOS update on, like you see me do. I always use small flash drives that can be formatted in FAT32 or FAT16 for the BIOS program to read it. Similar other utilities like Clonezilla, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, MTest 86, they don't require a whole lot of flash drive space. So why waste your flash drive? True also of the Acronis TrueImage. When I make the rescue flash drive, it's a very small file. It's, I think, 1 gig. So I always use these 2 gig flash drives, but they're very difficult to find. The 2 gig flash drives that are available today are just cheap junk. But you can get a nice quality 8 gig or 16 gig flash drive relatively inexpensively as of right now, the 20th of February, 2019. Somebody's gonna watch this video in 2026 and go, I wish I could find a 16 gig flash drive. They don't make them that small anymore. All right, so, questions? Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Has anybody learned anything today at all? Have I just wasted my time? Seriously, have you found this video to be interesting, informative, and educational? That is a sincere question. Irving's joined us. Hi, Irving. Franklin's with us. Hi, Franklin. Nick says he uses 8 gig flash drives all the time. Yeah, amen. Guys are liking the content? Wonderful, thank you, thank you. John O'Toole wants to know, would I see a difference in video editing going from 32 gigs to 16 gigs? In fact, you quite more likely are going to see a difference because that's one of those unusual tasks not many people do. But it is very much dependent on the software that you're using for video editing. So the way Cyberlink Power Director works, or Pinnacle Studio works, or Sony Vegas, or Adobe Premiere, They all work differently with regards to hardware encoding, how they take advantage of available CUDA cores, also is how they use system memory or your hard drive. Like if you've got a mechanical drive and you swap it to a solid state drive, that can improve your rendering time. Didn't improve it for me on PowerDirector, but it's an interesting note that just because it didn't improve it for me on PowerDirector doesn't mean it couldn't make a huge difference on Adobe Premiere. I don't know if it makes a difference on Adobe Premiere. I'm saying it's possible. So depending on the video editing software that you're using, you may in fact see quite a difference, especially if you're making big videos with a lot of special effects or transitions or overlays. That's where the memory gets used. If the videos are 4K, if the videos are 360-degree videos, so the size of the video and how much memory is being used, along with the number of edits and the number of post-production add-ons or changes that you're making, potentially consume more memory. But beyond 32 gig would, depending again, there's a lot of depending here, may or may not make a difference. But you should, if I'm running a video editor, 32 gigs would be ideal and 16 gigs should be minimum, in my opinion, for the software that I use. Gotta put all those conditions. What's next on the two 9700K computers? Well, the next thing I want to do is I want to pull this Be Quiet cooler off and I want to put the customer's Mugen 5 back on and run the same Prime 95 test again and see if it's better or worse than the Dark Rock 4. As long as we remain under 85 degrees centigrade, the customer's getting what he paid for, which is the Mugen 5. Customer does not want his RAM slot covered up by a cooler. So that means the Noctua D14 and 15 are out. Customer does not want a liquid cooler. So that option's off the table. So my job, I say we, because I consider you guys friends, my challenge then is to meet that customer's individual needs. Everybody's different, everybody has different needs. This customer absolutely, positively refuses, he will not accept a liquid cooler. And I'm not gonna change his mind. That's not my job. My job is to say, yes, sir, let me find a solution for you. And offer the customer alternatives. What do you think of this? And what do you think of that? What if I go with this big Noctua cooler? It's gonna, just so you know, it's gonna overlap your RAM socket. So if you need to take it, remove or insert any RAM, you're gonna have to remove the heatsink. Oh, no. Nope. Okay, so we need a heatsink that can meet all of these demands. The Dark Rock 4 does not meet that demand, and so it's coming off. And what the heck, we'll just see which one's better, side by side, because the Mugen 5 has a bigger radiator on it. And I think potentially it's gonna cool better. My tests yesterday suggested that it did, but they weren't as precise as today's tests. But even if, and I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, even if the Mugen 5 isn't quite as good as the Be Quiet Dark Rock 4, it installs easier, it doesn't block a RAM module, a RAM socket rather, or interfere with the RAM. And it's got a standard modular fan, whereas Be Quiet uses a proprietary 135 millimeter fan, which is weird. And the customer very much wants no proprietary nothing. And between you and I don't want proprietary nothing either. Still waiting to hear back on, from the judge if he wants that additional 4-pin CPU power connector. As you can see, the system works fine without it. I believe, and I could be mistaken, but I believe it's only suggested to be used if you're going to be overclocking for stability. The system already overclocks itself. It boosts up to 4.6. It's pretty darn fast. At this point, the slowest part of the computer is you. So, and the judge, is a reasonable man, he understands that. To go any faster than that isn't gonna make him any faster. It isn't gonna help him be any more productive, especially at the cost of the potential reliability degradation in doing it. So we want to keep it, it's got to be reliable. Performance isn't really performance if the system won't stay running reliably. Then you don't have better performance. Sort of a tortoise and hare type situation. Andy Tom says, evening from the Scotsman in England. We got lots of scotch in here today. Scotch? Somebody say scotch? So the discount code for Acronis that I mentioned, that's only for Acronis True Image. And initially it was only for the subscription model, but now it will work for the subscription model or the regular version of Acronis True Image. There's a special link that you guys can use. The code is there. It's available to all of you until February the 28th. So you've got 8 days. You've got a week, just a little over a week, if you want to take advantage of it. I don't know if Acronis will ever make that offer again. So if it's interested, if it interests you, I suggest you take advantage of it. It's a really good deal. And a huge thank you to the folks over at Acronis for making that offer. I think that was very, very kind of them. And I very much appreciate it. Franklin says, what about my computer? Well, Franklin, as a result of the testing, your computer will be tomorrow, hopefully. I am trying to get this one. I can only do one thing at a time, and I appreciate your patience. And unfortunately, just due to the situation with your machine, and the fact that this one's already on the bench, I want to just finish this one up if I can. Let me get it out of here. Let me finish up yours. Let me get it out of here. And I can move on to the 6 others that are waiting. So you are there, buddy. I haven't forgotten about you. Hang in there. Just hang in there. You're going to get it. But you know, do you want it quickly or do you want it right? So I want to make sure that when I do it for you, that I'm not pushing it through and rushing. So hang in there with me. Scots, not Scotch. It's a joke. See, Google, what is a joke? And then you can read what that is. Irving says, thanks, Carey and Acronis. I already have a license. Very good. Very good. Jill Johnson said it's a good discounted price at $24.99. Agreed. Will you try the Hyper 212 cooler again? Not on a 9700K. It absolutely will not. Oh, I understand what you're asking. I understand you're saying if we run the test. Hold on. All right, well, police are out there writing a report right now. Just so you know, the cops are writing a report. So, whatever causing these businesses damage is a serious crime, they don't think they're gonna get caught. So, what are you gonna do? All right. The good thing is having the police outside right there to address it is very, very helpful as we isolate and take care of this. Okay, so what was I talking about? I can't remember. Does Coca-Cola reach out to me? I wish. I wish. All right. Anyway, so getting back to the Hyper 212 Evo. Would it be worth revisiting the Hyper 212 Evo on the 9700K? I don't believe it would. And the reason is the radiator on it is so small. And furthermore, outside of just simple curiosity, I wouldn't recommend the Hyper 212 Evo because of the size of the radiator and because it's so difficult to install. I'm going to recommend the Mugen 5 because I think it's a better value, and that larger radiator is certainly going to cool better. That's definitely, I mean, that's obvious, right? It's going to cool better than a Hyper 212. There's a lot more surface area and heat pipes to make that. I think it's got more heat pipes, but it's much more available to handle the heat better. So then I love the 212 Evo. I really, really like that cooler with regards to value, not with regards to the installation process. It's not as bad. The worst cooler I've ever installed as far as the installation process is this Dark Rock 4. That sets the record for difficulty. Unless the Mugen 5 doesn't perform, you know, if running the Prime 95 test is going to exceed us from 85 degrees centigrade, then I won't be able to use the Mugen 5. But it's also possible that the Mugen 5 will cool better than this Dark Rock 4. Apparently, Be Quiet's got a bigger marketing budget, and so more people are aware of it than they are of the Mugen 5. So this may be a case where everybody's talking about the Dark Rock 4 because of the power of marketing, when a cheaper, better cooler potentially exists for half the price. So I want to find out. I want to give my customers the best value, the best performance, and the most reliability. But it was a good question, and I appreciate that. So no, if you have a 9700K, I would not recommend the Hyper 212 Evo for that application. Now, any other Intel chip in the i3, i5, you know, like an i7 8086K, an i7 8700K, that's it. Don't at this point, nothing beyond that. You know, certainly nothing on the, well, I really don't know on the Socket 2011 side how well a Hyper 212 Evo would do. I guess, again, it depends on the individual chip. But I'm not sure why you would spend $1,400 on a CPU and spend $30 on the cooler. That's kind of a weird choice. Even if it works, it's kind of weird. I think you got a $1,400 CPU, probably could open up your wallet and buy the appropriate, you know, the best cooler possible for it. And I don't think that's the 212 Evo in either case. Even if it works, it won't be the best one. All right, so how's our MEM test doing? Let's check it out. How are we performing? You'll see we're still, if you just read the bottom line, we're 21 minutes into the test. We're on test number 10 of 13 and on pass 1 of 4 of the 13 tests. I'm not going to let it run the test 4 times. If it passes all 13 tests and it starts the second pass and starts all over again with test 1 again, I'm going to stop it. Because if there's no errors found, and so far there's no errors, then I'm confident that when I'm shipping this computer to my customer, they don't have any corrupt RAM. This bit me in my butt. In my hurry to get a machine out for a gentleman, I think he was in Tennessee, I can't remember. He didn't know anybody locally that he trusted to work on the machine, and he had just received the machine from me and immediately was having blue screen problems. I didn't have any blue screen problems, and you guys watched the whole build on video. But where I dropped the ball is I didn't run this test just to be sure. The end result is, mailed the system back to me, diagnosed bad RAM. I created an RMA. I shipped the RAM back. The RAM was replaced. Didn't cost the customer for the RAM replacement. I paid for the shipping and I shipped it back. Shipping a computer back and forth is about $100 each way. And it's embarrassing and it's inconvenient to the customer. It's a very easy and free test. And like I said, you don't have to run all 4 passes. If you want to set it at night and go to bed and check it in the morning, great. It'll stop automatically and just display the results for you. And it'll be waiting for you as long as you want. You want to go on vacation for 2 weeks and come back, it'll still be there waiting for you. See, Catherine is offering to help some folks with parts lists. Are there any bad hard drive brands? Well, how can a hard drive brand stay in business? Explain that. How does that business model work that you can sell bad products and stay in business? So I think you're getting confused with people's opinions based on a bad experience or a good experience, which obviously a company like Western Digital or Seagate, if every product they made was faulty, they wouldn't exist. The shareholders would be losing, the investors would be losing too much money in warranty and repairs, which would affect a lack of return on their investment. That would then pull them to invest their money in another company. And then they wouldn't have any operating capital eventually if a lot of investors did that, and they would have to sell the business to a competitor or shutter the business. I don't think you really need to worry about any bad hard drive brands. Now, you know, every manufacturer gets a bad product every now and then. The question is, how good is the customer support? I have not found Western Digital to be any more or less reliable than Seagate. They have both had good and bad models, you know. They have the same, pretty much the same pricing, the same warranties, the same RMA process, which takes the same amount of time. They perform identically in reading and writing speeds of identical models with identical prices. And those are the only 2 brands I use for a mechanical drive, is Western Digital or Seagate. If I'm buying a solid state drive, Samsung is the best performance. Potentially, you have that option if you want to spend the money. You can also, or I also use SanDisk. I like to use ADATA a lot lately because they've been proven to be the budget leader. They're not the fastest drive, but they are very affordable, very aggressively priced, and are a standard industry warranty across the board, generally all these manufacturers. Western Digital also makes solid state drives. They're fine. They all pretty much, you know, run about the same price, same warranty, and same performance specs in that price range. I also been using the Intel 660p series for best budget NVMe, not best performance NVMe, but best budget NVMe. A lot of different opportunities. It's like asking me, it's like you go to a restaurant and it serves all this different kind of food and you say, what should I eat? Eat what you like. Eat what looks good. Don't ask me. Only you can make up that decision. Did I ever get any response from GIGABYTE? Never did. I haven't checked. I should probably log in and check. But I would think I'd get an email notification when they responded to their ticketing site where you create a support ticket, and I have received nothing. So maybe I have to manually go in there and check. But that's all over with at this point as far as I'm concerned, because we found out the issue wasn't with GIGABYTE. The issue is with the 470 chipset for the Ryzen. So you won't see me using any more 470 chipsets. I still have the motherboard with the 470. Now that I know its limitation with regards to SATA performance and NVMe performance, I'll figure out the right way to use it, but I won't use any more of those. You will not see another 470 chipset AMD motherboard on this channel. All right, how's our memory test doing? Let's just check in with it. We are on test number 10 still. So some of these tests take longer than others. I don't know if it really tells us how much time is remaining, but we've been going now almost half an hour and we're still not through a first pass. The more memory you have and the slower your processor is, the longer this is going to take. So if you have an old machine from 1995 with 4 gigs of RAM in it, it'll take even longer than this machine with 32 gigs of RAM. So keep that in mind. It's like watching a pot of water come to boil. It feels like it takes longer if you watch it. This is best to be left alone. Go out shopping, go watch TV, go to bed. Like I say, the results will be the results. But if at any time an error pops up, you can stop the test. There's no point in continuing the test. Memory is not repairable. You cannot fix it. You'll have to either replace it or live without it. Does anybody have any other technical questions? Technical questions. Is an i5 enough for gaming? Depends on the i5, depends on the game, and depends on the settings that you play. It may be or it may not be. Sorry, but that's the truth. And that's why so many different processors exist. It's not that one can't play games and one can. You got to get that thinking out of your head. It doesn't work like that. Team Group's solid state drive is pretty good. I've used one Team Group SSD and I haven't used it it was used for a few months and then I pulled it, and in fact I showed it here on the channel. And it runs just no differently than any other SATA based SSD, pretty much the similar performance. I bought it because of the price. It was like 50 bucks. I think it's a 500 gig. I won't buy a solid state drive under 500 gigs anymore. It's just not worth it. So I don't care how cheap the 120s and the 240s are. So I'm just going to be replacing it. It's just a wall you're going to hit sooner rather than later. So for 50 bucks for 500 gigs, geez, it's a really good deal. And so that's why I bought the Team SSD, and I can't complain. I got nothing to complain about with it. It's certainly not a speed demon, and dealing with Team's RMA process was frustrating, but hopefully I won't have to have any reason to deal with Team's RMA process. Remember, it's not about a company making a bad product, because that does happen. It's about how a company responds, and Team's response to me was they seemed like they didn't know what they were doing. They wanted me to contact another department. Then I contacted the other department. I got no response. And after a couple days, I went back and I said, I did what you asked me to do. I've waited for a few days and nobody's responding to me. And then they processed my RMA. So why didn't they do that right from the beginning? Why did they make me wait? So imagine if that's your only drive and your system is down. Obviously you want that system back up as soon as possible. So how upset would you be that they sent you on a Easter egg hunt? And then you come back and go, there's no Easter egg. You know, oh, here you go. That happened to me the other day. Guy comes up to me, starts speaking Spanish. I go, no habla español. And then he speaks perfect English, like no accent. It's perfect. Well, why did you start with Spanish? I don't know. Maybe I look like I speak Spanish. Is that racist to think somebody looks like they speak Spanish? Is that wrong? I was kind of like, really? Is there any noticeable difference between a SATA SSD and an NVMe SSD? Yeah. Is there any difference between a Chevrolet and a Ferrari? Mm-hmm. And you'll see those performance benchmarks on numerous videos in my video library, and as well as other YouTube content creators. Adam Sleeth has contributed 10 Australian dollars. He says, enjoying the channel. Thanks, Carrie. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for supporting the channel. So again, any technical questions? You guys, I need you to focus. Technical questions. My shirt. I wasn't wearing this shirt. Is this the shirt I wear every day? I got one shirt. David Rivera says, everyone assumes I speak Spanish with my last name. But no. Can I put MemTest on a CD? I mean, I suppose you put on a floppy disk if you want to. Knock yourself out. You saw the website. Read what it says. Teach a man to fish. Teach a man to fish. I have led you on the path. It is up to you to walk it. It is not for me to hold your hand. You wear dope shirts, says Dave M. Well, thank you. No, why did you delete that message? Peter, come on. There's nothing wrong with that. It was a compliment. Apologize for that. A little over-aggressive on my mod there. Might have to remove somebody's mod status. Please don't do that again. Please. Dave M was timed. Was that Dave M that said that? Dave, I like you, man. Dave, don't, please. He did not deserve a timeout, Dave Murray. I like you, Dave Murray. I like both of you, Daves. That was uncalled for. Acronis is on sale for $24.99 at Newegg for the next 6 days. Isn't that interesting? But it's just that version of Acronis. So my discount code works for 3 different versions of Acronis TrueImage, just so you're aware. But that's interesting nonetheless. That just means that they've given us a special discount code, and they probably given Newegg, you know, their own thing, and they want to see who sells what. Nothing to be offended by. Michael, thank you for correcting. Michael Mancini, thank you for correcting and unhiding Dave M. Dave M, I apologize. People make mistakes, so. Lotto says, thank you very much for today's live stream. It was very informative. Oh, it's not over, Lotto. We're still going, but thank you for your kind words. Who makes the best motherboards? Who makes the best chicken sandwich? That's what you're asking. You ask 10 people who makes the best chicken sandwich, you're going to get 10 different answers. And the only person whose answer matters is yours. So you're going to have to try a few and decide what you like. Peter Brooks has contributed £1.99. He says, I apologize. I thought it was an insult. It was not an insult. It's an American colloquialism that is simply saying that he likes my shirt. It's dope. We have a lot of those. They'll say it's wicked. Back in the day, it's bad. Michael Jackson's album was called Bad. I don't think he was literally saying the album was bad. He meant it was good. So let's get a little easy on the trigger finger. If it's vulgar, different story. And it's pretty obvious when it's vulgar. Charles Fiore has contributed $20. He says, I bought a couple of Team SSDs, and so far so good. One on an old laptop and one on an old computer that he has converted to a network-attached storage device. Thank you for the contribution, Charles. If you have not received a case badge from me and you would like one, please send me an email, remind me who you are and that you did this today, and include your full mailing address, and I'd be happy to send you one of my Inspired by badges if you want one. And thank you for supporting the channel. I really appreciate your support. We've got 754 people watching now. Why don't you give me a shout out? Let me know where you're watching me from. And let's take a quick look at the state of the MEMTest 86 test currently. We're on test 13. We're on the final test. So far it's been running for 40, just shy of 40 minutes. So it looks like to test 32 gigs of RAM at this performance level with that CPU, this is the time you should expect to have to wait. Maddie, UOL, has contributed $2. Thank you, Maddie. Built a computer here for Maddie a couple weeks ago. You guys joined us with that. Maddie wants me to build another one for him. He's one of several very patient people in the wings because I don't have any employees. I want to control the quality. I want to make sure that everything that goes out the door is consistent. And so I do everything myself. Lots of people from Scotland and Pennsylvania and England, Texas, North Carolina. Oops, flying a little too quickly. Charles, I'm going to make you a moderator. There you go, buddy. Thank you. Donald watches us in Chicago. Mats Rickardson is watching in Sweden. Dave M says, thanks, no worries, guys. Mistakes happen. You're cool, Dave M, and thank you for understanding. It's just a mistake. Let's see, we got folks watching us from Yorkshire, UK, Winchester, Kentucky, Worcester, UK, I'm not sure. That's a big word. If you say it exactly like it's written, it sounds like Worcestershire. That's a mouthful. Worcestershire, I think. And in Boston, they'd say Worcester. Brian's watching us from Elsim, Saskatchewan in Canada. Michael Mancini joins us from snowy New Jersey. Jay Toy is in Chicago. We've got Maryland, Ontario, Canada, Manchester, England. Manu! Sorry. New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Athens, Greece, Minnesota, Nottinghamshire, Kent in England, Southend in the UK, Cardiff in Wales. Oh, how I wish. One day I will go to Cardiff. One day I will go to Wales. One day it will happen. Edmonton, Alberta, Flint, Michigan, my home. Well, Michigan's my home, not Flint, but not too far away from Detroit. Welcome in, my fellow Michigander. Let's see, we got the Netherlands, Wyoming, Ohio, the UK, San Diego, California, Dublin, Ireland, St. Louis, Missouri, the gateway to the West, Panama, Essex in the UK, another UK. Montana. Dave M is in Montana. Ooh. I heard Montana wants to be sold to Canada. What do you think about that, Dave M? Should we sell Montana to Canada? And if so, can I move there? Ray Burke watches us from Portland, Oregon. Sharon doesn't have nice things to say about Cardiff, but I'm an easy guy to impress. Irving T says he's watching us from France, and Matt Foster is watching from the UK. Ted Trish says he's watching from Louisiana. Les Wu in the Worcester. Yeah, well, I never claimed to be a good impressionist. Let's see what else we've got in here. Florida, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Barbados. Is that the machine I built for the person in Barbados? San Antonio, Texas. Brownsville, Texas, another Ohio, the Netherlands, and Kansas. Denmark. Hillbilly 3366. You know, I can't make this up. Says, shout out from East Tennessee. Well, there you go. Francois joins us from Montreal, and Andy is in Devon, England. I think of somebody named Andy in Britain. Go Andy! Go Andy! It's a Wimbledon thing, sorry. Go Andy! Apparently they really want Andy to go. Noodles is watching us from Kent in the UK. Mark MC joins us from Belfast. Hood 6081 joins us from Zagreb, Croatia, and Jorgen Forsberg in Stockholm, Sweden. Dirty Harry is watching us in Azusa, California. And Catherine Anna Hauserman is in Cartagena, Colombia. I'm not going to say the whole thing. I'm just going to say Cartagena. 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 You say it too many times, works the whole mouth to say that word. Vern Mahoney is it Olathe or Olathe, Kansas? I still can never get that right. Irving says, did you see my benchmark on my channel? I don't know. You're welcome to post a link to it here. Henry watches us from Victoria, Australia. And Mihai watches us from Romania. Doom 1983 in Pennsylvania, and Dink Wonkelman is in Illinois. Where have I heard that name? That's in a movie, right? That's from a movie? Seth Harris is in Colorado. Matt Foster says, come on over to Kent in the UK. It's beautiful here. Well, try and stop me. I would love to see all of it. Wales and specifically the Cotswolds are very much interest to me, but also with Scotland and Ireland. I don't like real crowded places, so I might spend a day in London and then I will have my fill, So I want to be sort of away from the crowds. I don't think London would do that, but so many iconic things in London. Go see it, be done with it, move on. Lots of countries in England I want to see. Lots of, not countries, counties. Ryan wants to know if I got the capture card working on the laptop. I've been spending all day and all night dealing, as you can imagine, with numerous things at the same time, and that is the furthest thing from my mind at this time. But when I do have time to look into it, I will certainly include you on what the results of that are. Ken says that Tom's Hardware is reporting that DRAM prices are expected to decline as much as 30% this quarter. Well, let's hope that's true. Travel Diary says, greetings from Greece. I love your videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Travel Diary. Donnie Seegers contributed $2. He says, I got my very first copy of Acronis. You rock, Carey. Well, make sure you tell that to Acronis. They're the ones who made the offer, but thank you. I'm glad you took advantage of that. Saturday night on Piccadilly Circus. I mean, you got to experience it, right? It's like Times Square in New York. I got to go and spend a couple hours and then check it off my bucket list and never do it again. Sean Baxter says, I live in Wiltshire, and it's lovely and gorgeous countryside. Well, I already hate you. It sounds wonderful. Will test 13 ever end? This test has been running 47 minutes, and we're at the final test number 13, the hammer test. That sounds like my kind of a test, the hammer test. Jurgen Newtons, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it, as well as Hood 6081. You guys are very kind. I just need this test to finish so I can pull the cooler. In fact, let me go grab the Mugen. I might as well do that now since we're waiting, because that's what's coming next. Mugen, here it is. How much power are we drawing from the wall during this test? 58 watts. You heard correctly. So make sure you get that 1,000-watt power supply. He said satirically, or is that satire? Let me get my self-promotion out of the way here. And this will be good. Just put it there. Out of sight, out of mind. Chuck says he lives in a state of confusion. You are not alone, Chuck. I'm there too. So confused, didn't even see you standing there with me. Good to the last drop. Michael Ebbs contributed 5 New Zealand dollars as the Acronis offer for subscription or one-time purchase. Either way, it'll work either way. There is a special link in the video notes below this video. If you click on it, you'll see 3 products, and that code is good for all 3 products. Your choice, no matter where you are in the world. It's not just for US folks. See, the English language? I could have said it's not just for us folks. Then that really wouldn't have made sense. I said it's not just for US folks. I need to turn down the self-awareness a notch. Franklin says it's sarcasm. Yeah. But thanks for playing. Come on, test 13. Come on. Let's be done with you already. You do see it's 91% at the very top of the screen it says Intel Core i7, and just below that in green, it shows us we're 91% through test 13, and then below that I think is a percentage of all the tests combined, how close we are to the end. We're close. We're getting there. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? 4 words, all uppercase. Wayne Elliott gets it. See that guy? I like him. He gets it. Thanks, Wayne. I needed that. 4 words, all upper. It just never stops being funny. 4 words, all uppercase. Oh, that's genius. It's genius. I'm going to walk around in circles for a minute, burn off some energy. Let me give you guys full screen, since I'm sort of restless, and I need to get my thermal compound. I need to get my Q-tips and my denatured alcohol, so I'm prepared when this test is done that I can pull the heat sink and then we can get right to work. So I'm gonna cut the camera, I'm gonna cut this camera up here in the corner, and I'm gonna let you guys watch MemTest 86 continue so you can see it without my ugly face, and then I'll be right back. Sorry guys, apologize for that. Let me make sure my audio is going out. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Okay, we're out now. So what I was saying was, it seems to me that we're already on the second series of tests, the second loop, if you will. And if you look down below at the time on the screen, it says finished pass number 1 of 4, cumulative error count is 0. Now I can let this run, you know, go through the system, the whole loop of tests 3 more times. I don't really feel that's necessary. It's brand new RAM. The only reason that runs through 4 tests is because sometimes RAM problems only get exposed when the RAM heats up. You know, 4 is not a random number. 4 is what the engineers have determined with regards to just making sure that the RAM's okay. But since this RAM is brand new and it's never given us any reason to suspect anything's bad, I am absolutely certain, I'm very confident that we're just going to waste time with regards to letting it complete when we can be doing other things. But again, I would advise you to run it at night and go ahead and run all 4 passes of the tests just to be certain. But likely if it passes the first round of tests, it's very unusual that it won't pass the next 3 repetitions of it. It's possible. It does happen. It doesn't happen very common. Many of you watching right now have bad RAM and you don't even know it because you're not using that area of RAM that's bad. Ignorance is bliss, and if you want to live with bad RAM, go ahead. The only reliable way that you can know if you have bad RAM for free is to download this utility and use it just as I've demonstrated here today. And so if nothing else, it can give you peace of mind. Even if you don't think you have a problem, doesn't mean you don't. And so to get that confirmation back, that's much more useful than looking at your temps and worrying about how many frames per second you're getting, in my opinion. Joe T has contributed $10. He says, Prescott Valley High, Carey, keep up the good work and never tolerate bullies. That is Joe. Joe, we should be building a computer for Joe here pretty soon. And this one I don't have to ship out of state for once. I'm looking forward to that. Hi, Joe. And thank you for contributing to the channel. You and I are going to talk probably Friday. So with the rest of this, I don't need to shut I don't need to exit the software is what I mean to say. What I can do is simply just turn the machine off, come back here. Oops, wrong button. Just hit the switch on the power supply, cut the power to the machine. Whether or not you wish to save the flash drive or format it and reuse it for something else, that's entirely up to you. Whenever you want to run memtest 86, I suggest you download and run the latest version. The problem with saving utilities on flash drives is you might jump to it 6 months or a year from now, blow the dust off of it, plug it in, and get inaccurate results because you're not running the latest. So whenever you run any system utility, CPU temp monitoring software, benchmark testing software, I always suggest you run the latest version, which takes us back to the beginning of Prime 95 and how that bit me in the butt. But interestingly, just by changing the settings, the default test settings to match the previous versions of Prime 95, turns out the latest version still is okay to use. Just be aware of that. I'm accustomed to just click OK. I didn't realize it changed. I didn't have any reason to believe or to suspect there would have been a change. I just assumed that a newer version meant there was more compatibility and addressed issues with new technology to be compatible or to take advantage of or to test new technology in the CPUs. It didn't occur to me that Prime 95 would have changed the default test settings. So now that I know, you know too, unless you already knew, in which case I can confirm that. So I just want the computer to just cool off here for a minute, and we're going to pull the CPU cooler. I've got the Mugen 5 back out with its installation parts. I've got the Q-tips, the denatured alcohol, and I was looking at what thermal compound I've got, and I've got some, I don't know, this is from Cooler Master. We'll just use it if it's still good. If it comes out like if it's really if it's not very viscous, then it's old. It needs to be thrown away. And thermal compound's cheap. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Is this a Sprite? This is a Canada Dry. Is Canada Dry today? I'm getting a little too much Coca-Cola, a little too much caffeine. I don't think there's no caffeine in Canada Dry. It's all the calories and all the sugar is Coke without the caffeine. Stephen Barber says hello. Hey, Stephen. All right. So I'm going to be using this timer again once we get the Mugen 5 back on. What did we see? I think we saw a max temp of 73 today on the Dark Rock 4. Last night I saw a max temp of 74, but the room temperature may be different. The ambient temperature may not be exactly as it was when I tested last night, and that could explain that 1 degree, would very easily explain that 1 degree difference. Just checking out how everybody's doing in the chat. We've got 658 people watching now. Thanks you guys for hanging in there with me. I do expect this video to be chopped up into pieces for some quick tips. I expect the Prime 95 and Benchmark will be isolated into its own quick tip. How to download, create the flash drive and utilize MemTest 86 will be another quick tips video. And then maybe the difference between the Be Quiet Dark Rock 4 performance and the Mugen 5 from Skive will be another quick tip. So out of this whole thing today, I should get 3 videos, and I'm going to put my editor to work. My sister's been editing, and she's doing a wonderful job. You guys have seen this. Incredible thumbnails she's making, and the edits she's doing, and the different intros she's experimenting with. And if there's anything in particular that you think is outstanding in the comments of the videos, which you can clearly tell are edited and not live, she's the one doing that unless otherwise stated, because I have a few of you out there that also edit my videos. Crazy Vera is one of those people. He's editing on an old computer, and I want to get him a newer, upgraded computer that I'm going to mail it to him free of charge, and he doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to ever edit another video for me again, but if he wants to, he'll be able to do it a lot faster with a free X99 computer that was sent to me by a viewer in a case that was sent to me by a viewer, and then the rest I'm providing, and then I got to pay for the shipping. It's probably going to be around $100 to ship it, but the quality of the work that Crazy Vera's done, and you'll see Crazy Vera has credit in those videos he's edited, absolutely, he's earned it. He has earned it as far as I'm concerned, and if he wants to continue, it'll be easier than ever, because he's like editing with 2 gigs of RAM on an old Pentium D, and I'm sending him an X99 board, which would be like going from a bicycle to a Ferrari. And I can't wait to get it shipped out to him. Get Diet Coke instead of normal Coke. Well, why don't I just go out and drink some mud? Hey, have some mud. You should be healthy and miserable. Don't try to be happy. What's wrong with you? Magni Johansson has contributed 33 Norwegian krona. Love the he says, great quick tips. Love the quick tips channel. Hey, thank you. And that'll still be constantly added to as well as the quick tips become available. It's more administrative work, but it's worth it. And we can grow these sub channels so that when these types of attacks happen, I have backup channels to run to as contingency plans to make sure that we continue to be operational despite the best efforts of the losers trying otherwise. So I find it funny because, I don't know, it's so basic and simple, and they think they're smart. I don't know, I just find it funny. It's sad, you know. It's kind of, I feel a little bad for laughing at them because I realize, you know, they don't realize, they're completely unaware of how they think they're being clever, and they're not being clever. It's just stupid. But anyway, it's our humor for the day, and so I want to go ahead and start with this now. What I want to do first is pull power. All right, always always pull the power. That's just basic safety, right? If you don't care about your safety, that's on you. I care about my safety. And, you know, that's why I do it. Once again, I have to deal with getting this darn fan off. This will be like the third or fourth time I've had to deal with this. And it's not getting easier. I'm sure the police won't appreciate me saying that it's funny. I don't think they think it's funny at all. I'm sure they have better things to do with their time. I suppose the right word is absurd. It is absurd. It's like a contest to see who can be the most absurd. Congratulations, you've won. Tell your parents. They'll be so proud of you. This is what your parents created. I'm sure they're proud. Look at all the people I bullied today, Mom and Dad. That's my boy. Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, this wire hanger sucks. These wire hangers, I've mentioned this before, on the Be Quiet Dark Rock 4, they have no pull handles. There's no way to easily remove them. They think you're gonna put it on and you're never ever gonna need to take it off. I think if Be Quiet made a car, that they would weld the tires onto the car. They would just weld them instead of having lug nuts to remove the tire. Why would you ever want to remove the tire? Just weld it on. They'll never need another tire. Thanks, Be Quiet. Thanks for being so thoughtful in your product design and pricing and proprietary fan size and difficulty in installation. Just let me write you a personal letter of thank you expressing my gratitude at Tell you what, it's a good way to build up some calluses. Do this enough times. They ought to come, you know what, Be Quiet should work with a hand lotion company and, you know, get on both sides of that. So after you build up the calluses, you can get your hand lotion and they can charge you, they can overcharge you for that too. Let's see here, what do we got? What do we got? It's a real challenge. This is a real challenge. It's certainly more difficult for me to do this with the case upright. And then I say I do it so you can see it, but with my back, you probably can't see what I'm doing anyway. So I think I'm gonna just go ahead and lay it flat. Because even though I have the best of intentions to show you, at least this way I can see the wire hangers and how they're sitting, and it should be easier for me to get it off now that I can see. Towards me a little bit. Ah, there we go. So that side's come up. Now, if I could just get the other side. Wow. If I tried to make this harder, I don't think I could come up with a more difficult way than whatever they did here. So kudos for coming up with a process that is so difficult that even in my wildest imagination, I would have never thought, would have never occurred to me if you said, could you come up with a way to make this fan installation as complicated as possible and as difficult to get off? I don't think I could have come up with something that well done, very well done. All right, there's one, and then the other side should come off a lot easier. I just want to be careful. I could pull the RAM just to be safe, but I don't want to reseat it and then potentially have it not sit correctly and then have to run memtest 86 on it again. Come on, come on, you're almost there. You can do it. You can do it. And in Murphy's Law is, as you see me struggle to get the fan off, that I ship this and the fan falls off on its own in shipping. Mark my words. There it is. All right, let's set that over there. Let's move that with it so we don't get them mixed up. And then let's take the cooler off. I can use the electric screwdriver now to expedite this process a bit. You know, why can't I just leave these brackets on? Why do I have to completely disassemble it? Critical thinking. I mean, if Scythe can leave the brackets on, then we should be able to leave the brackets on the Be Quiet as well.